Hey, it's Abdullah. When talking about mobile photography legends of the past decade, you surely must have heard of the Lumia 1020. For 2013, it wasn't just the best camera phone you could buy. It was also labeled the Rolls-Royce of mobile photography 5 years after it came out by Steve Litchfield, which is also, in my opinion, how many years ahead of everything else it was. But it was also the perfect case study of how Microsoft was holding Nokia back. So, what made the Lumia 1020 so special? Why was it so far ahead of anything else? And is the only phone I literally jumped out of a plane for? Let's find out. From the front, the 1020, or 909 as it was known internally, looked like every other Lumia out there. It had a really nice 4.5-inch HD Plus OLED display with Nokia's clear black tech, 3 capacitive buttons and a flat top and bottom. Turn it around though and you're now facing one of the most striking and at the time controversial camera bumps ever. What was known as the Oreo camera bump was gigantic, as it should be. It housed a state-of-the-art 41 megapixel PureView camera with Zeiss optics and the dearly missed Xenon flash. However, on paper, the 1020 sat alongside every other Windows Phone flagship at that time. So it was running on the Snapdragon S4 Plus processor, a 2000 milliamps non-removable battery, and it even supported wireless charging if you had the add-on case. The only main difference was an extra gig of RAM, bringing the total to 2 gigabytes of RAM, which was added to handle all the extra processing required to handle 41 megapixels. Now do remember that the norm back then was between 8 and 13 megapixels as standard on most flagships. And despite the camera bump, I find the design of the 1020 stunning. The whole phone was made from a single piece of polycarbonate plastic with tapered edges to hide its overall thickness. And build quality was nothing short of extraordinary, with very thin top and bottom edges making it quite easy to fit the phone into your pocket. You did have to adjust your fingers around the camera bump when holding the device, which becomes a thing of habit very quickly. Now, if you think the 41 megapixel camera on the back of the 1020 was nothing other than a repackaged 41 megapixel taken from the 808 PureView, you couldn't actually be more wrong. This was a completely new and evolved sensor, and here are the 5 changes compared to the one found on the 808. Physically, it's slightly smaller, to reduce the size of the camera bump. It added optical image stabilization, which meant far superior low-light capabilities and much more stable video. It was a backlit sensor compared to a frontlit sensor on the 808, which means that it actually can capture more light. It had a larger aperture ratio at f2.2 compared to f2.4. Again, to capture more light. And unfortunately, it got rid of the ND filter, which was found on the 808 sensor. To oversimplify, an ND filter handles very harsh light directly pointed at the camera, such as the sun. As for components, the 808 also had a dedicated image signaling processor to handle all the processing required from such a massive camera. And this could have easily been done thanks to Symbion's flexibility and Nokia's total control over Symbion. For the 1020, Nokia's engineering wizards had to work with Qualcomm to completely rewrite the imaging stacks found on the Snapdragon S4 Plus, which by the way could only handle up to 20 megapixels. And this might seem trivial now, but this was definitely a huge limitation back then. Truth be told, Microsoft's very tight control over the hardware requirements of Windows Phone really got in the way here. But what those changes over the 808 sensor essentially mean is that the 1020 is a much better equipped smartphone at handling low light situations and videography, as well as being a much easier smartphone to live with on a daily basis because it's simply thinner. And the camera is absolutely state of the art, from hardware to wonderful software. It revolutionized mobile photography, giving you the ability to capture raw images for the first time on a phone. It also gave you total control over your desired outcome by giving you the ability to completely change manual controls and implementing them in the best and easiest possible way, with real-time changes viewable on the viewfinder. It gave you the option to capture RAW and JPEG images simultaneously, meaning that you could actually reframe an image after it was captured. And the point of the massive sensor wasn't just to capture huge images. It was to combine up to 7 pixels into one to capture the ultimate 5 megapixel images with virtually no noise. It also enabled you to utilize lossless zoom, so essentially you could crop from the massive sensor and still capture very detailed 5 megapixel images. And Xenon Flash is exceptional at freezing subjects in motion, making capturing action shots a breeze. With video, lossless zoom and optical image stabilization was a game changer. So was Nokia's inclusion of their high-fidelity audio microphones, or what they refer to as rich recording tech. Nothing could even come close to how good the audio quality captured with the 1020 was. Of course, it's not all rainbows and roses, and there were some real issues with the 1020's camera system, as well as some issues with the device as a whole. So here they are. The phone was slow to capture images, taking between 3 and 5 seconds per image captured. Even the 808 was much faster than that. For some reason, if you set the focus to infinity, you will almost always get a blurred image. White balance tended to lean a bit too much towards warm colors, giving you a very notable yellow hue to the images captured. Because of the slightly smaller sensor, the 808 was still better at capturing resolved details. Of course, this complaint wasn't very valid if you compare the 1020 against every other flagship out there, because you're essentially saying that even though your Lamborghini is so much faster than a Honda Civic in a straight line, there is a slightly faster Lamborghini out there. The CPU-GPU combination wasn't very competitive at the time, which was due to Microsoft's strict requirements for Windows Phone hardware. And of course, compared to Android and iOS, Windows Phone still lag behind when it comes to app ecosystem. Despite these issues, the Lumia 1020 remains one of the most iconic devices of the past decade. It might not have the same consistency and HDR wizardry that you find on most modern smartphones. However, with enough patience and know-how, you could still beat most smartphone cameras these days, especially in terms of resolved details and lack of noise. So if you still have a functioning one lying around, definitely hold on tight to it. It's simply very special. Now, before I leave you in peace, I would like to know if you guys want me to re-upload my original review of the 1020, which was actually filmed and captured in 2013. If that's something you'd like to see, let me know in the comments below. That's it from me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're enjoying my content, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up to support me and subscribe, and I shall see you in the next one.
Tell us.
This is fantastic.